Okay, let's dive right into this explainer. Have you ever felt like you've just hit rock bottom? I mean, absolute rock bottom. Well, to really put things into perspective, let's look at Aryan Malholtra's starting point. Imagine this, right? You're standing outside in the freezing, pouring rain, staring through the glass at this high-end restaurant, and you've got exactly 200 rupees to your name. That's it. Your father passed away, your own uncle and relatives literally stole your entire inheritance, and now you're completely homeless. Oh, and to top it all off, your cousin Ria, someone you actually thought was a close friend, just publicly and completely humiliated you. It's just sheer, unadulterated despair. And that's exactly where our subject, Aryan, begins his journey.
Now, what's so fascinating about this premise is the underlying mechanic it sets up. I mean, it forces us to ask a pretty incredible question. How on earth does a penniless outcast leverage the equivalent of pocket change into absolute sovereign power? Because as we're going to see, this isn't some story about saving pennies or clipping coupons. It's about exploiting this wild exponential system of growth. Think about compounding interest, but put it on tactical, reality-bending steroids. It completely defies traditional market limits and really pushes the boundaries of how wealth can artificially accelerate human capability.
So, welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to dissect the economic and power scaling logic behind what's known as the infinity wealth system. We're going to observe exactly how this progression system functions, and more importantly, we'll examine how raw wealth acts as merely a stepping stone to true tactical power and actual character growth. If you've ever wondered how economics can translate directly into combat and strategic supremacy, instead of just boring index funds, well, you're in the exact right place. We are literally breaking down the blueprints of turning capital into kinetic power.
Here's our roadmap for today. First up, the 200 rupee gamble. Second, the infinity spending loop. Third, purchasing power and skills. Fourth, executing the corporate revenge. And finally, we'll wrap up with a final system clash.
Okay, let's jump straight into part one, the 200 rupee gamble, system activation in the rain.
To really understand the catalyst of this whole system, we have to look at Aryan's psychological breaking point. He's literally out on the streets, just questioning why his life has turned out this way. Driven out by his power-hungry family, his inheritance snatched by his uncle, and then mocked by his former friend Ria with those brutal words, "You will always remain a loser." Ouch. Aryan has hit absolute zero. He has no home, no safety net, nobody to rely on. But right as he's questioning the universe and kind of just accepting his apparent fate, boom, this interactive glowing screen suddenly materializes in the dark right in front of him, announcing the activation of the infinity wealth system.
Now, the prompt on this screen is simple, but it completely defies all logic. It basically says, task, spend 200 rupees to get a reward of 20,000 rupees. The system is literally telling him that the more he spends, the more he earns. Just think about the sheer dopamine rush of that moment. You've just spent your last dime, and the universe instantly wires you a fortune. So, thinking it might be some kind of sick joke, but hey, having absolutely nothing left to lose, Aryan marches right into that expensive restaurant in front of him and orders 200 rupees worth of food. His heart's pounding, right? And the second he finishes, ding, a notification hits his phone. 20,000 rupees, credited instantly.
No way! That brings us to part two, the infinity spending loop. Let's talk about the base economy mechanics here.
So once Aryan realizes this isn't just some crazy glitch, the true addiction to the system begins, and he starts rapidly leveling up his life. The math is honestly staggering. He spends 10,000 rupees to get 100,000, he turns right around and reinvests that 100,000 to get 1,000,000. By treating his life like a literal economic multiplier, Aryan enters what we can call the infinity spending loop. He's mathematically grinding his way from total poverty to extreme wealth in a system that just completely ignores real-world economic principles like inflation or limited returns on investment. But, and this is where the underlying logic gets super fascinating, Aryan realizes pretty early on that just earning money to be rich, that's not the endgame. He recognizes this absolutely crucial strategic truth: money without capability just makes you a wealthy target. He needs to earn money to build actual unassailable power.
Which perfectly segues into part three, purchasing power and skills, focusing on his mid-game character progression.
Here, we see a really clear divergence in how sudden exponential wealth can actually be utilized. And honestly, this is the most vital tactical shift in our whole explainer. Think about it. An average person might just hoard the cash, buy fleets of luxury sports cars, or wear fancy designer black suits, right? They stop at basic wealth. But Aryan, he taps into the system's hidden feature, the skill store. Instead of buying basic resources, he literally uses his multiplied wealth to purchase intangible, highly tactical assets. We're talking fighting skills, business intelligence, advanced hacking abilities. It's a total masterclass in investing in your own capabilities rather than depreciating assets. treating this skill store as his true progression engine was infinitely smarter than simply buying shiny things. It transforms him from just some lucky lottery winner into a smart, strong, and highly dangerous operator. His character growth is now intrinsically tied directly to his economic choices.
All right, moving on to part 4, executing the corporate revenge. Let's see him applying those strategic system skills.
So, when Arian finally returns to the family that betrayed him, he doesn't just, flash his newfound wealth around. No, he weaponizes that mid-game skill tree we just talked about. He pulls up to his old house looking incredibly sharp, completely unrecognizable from the weak kid they threw out. His cousin Rhea is just an absolute shock. But here's the kicker. Arian doesn't resort to petty arguments or physical violence right out of the gate. Leveraging that advanced business intelligence and those hacking skills he bought, he executes a swift, overwhelmingly tactical corporate strike. He orchestrates hostile takeovers of all his family's legacy businesses, he digitally freezes their domestic and offshore bank accounts, and forces them into total, inescapable bankruptcy overnight. Bam! He literally uses their own corporate game against them, proving unequivocally that applied intelligence and system-bought skills will always dismantle inherited complacent wealth.
And that brings us to our final section, Part 5, the final system clash, also known as the endgame PvP boss battle. Because just when Arian destroys his uncle's empire and thinks he's won, the system drops a massive, dark, game-changing truth bomb. He is not the only chosen user. Out of nowhere, this mysterious man appears, revealing himself to be another system host. This escalates the whole situation from a simple financial revenge plot to an absolute endgame clash for total control. Now, this final battle, it's a spectacular collision of ideologies. We're looking at strategy versus money, and skills versus raw force. Arian is relying heavily on his carefully upgraded skill trees and strategic progression. But his mysterious rival? He relies entirely on brute forcing his rival's system powers with endless, raw cash. It's a grueling, highly tactical fight that pushes Arian to his absolute limits. In fact, relying solely on his previously purchased skills, Arian finds himself completely outgunned. To survive, he's going to need one massive, final evolutionary leap in the system's logic. Facing a terrifying, literal game-over scenario, the system grants Arian a last-second foundational upgrade, Infinity Mode. Guys, this is an incredible mechanic that perfectly bridges the gap between economic spending and raw, unadulterated power. In Infinity Mode, the very act of spending money directly and exponentially multiplies the user's tactical combat power in real time. Just imagine that. Every single dollar you spend instantly translating into physical momentum and concussive force. That is the terrifying reality of Infinity Mode. Economics literally becomes kinetic energy. By utilizing this ultimate system evolution, Arian is able to multiply his power output to impossible levels, utterly obliterate his rival, and secure a total, definitive victory.
To wrap up this explainer, we're really left with a chilling final thought. The system speaks to Arian one last time, basically informing him that he's no longer just a participant, he is now the owner of the system itself. Looking up at the sky, Arian just declares, "Now this world will run on my rules." It's such a perfect conclusion to his progression from that penniless victim freezing in the rain to the ultimate sovereign owner. But it leaves us with a fascinating, highly provocative question to ponder. What actually happens to the world's balance of power when a single user doesn't just play the economic game, but becomes the foundational code of reality itself? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will leave you to think about that.